right, hello risers, and welcome to Rising with Christian. Today we are with Pastor Will.
Hey, I'm hyped to be here. Honored to be on this couch.
And I'm honored. So a little fun fact. So Pastor Will and I, we were at a conference. Was it last year?
I think it was last year, yeah.
Hampton's Ministers Conference. He has on this really cool, as you can see his swag, he has on this really cool Howard shirt. And I'm like, hey, I went to Howard too, and we've just stayed connected. Absolutely. And one thing that I absolutely love is your passion. And so we're going to talk about your passion, your creativity, your ministry. But before we get into that, tell us about your experience while at Howard. I know you were a double major. What were some things that you were doing while there? And then we're going to get into this call to ministry.
Absolutely. Well, Howard for me is like the greatest institution in the world.
Yes, it is.
And for me, it really is where I found myself and where I found God. Coming from a family where my mother was 17 and my father was a gangbanger in Chicago, and being the first to graduate from college or go to college, it really, really was an eye-opening experience, particularly because I never been in a place like that before. A little interesting fact though, I was kicked out of high school my last year there, and some situations happened. I had a 12 on my ACT and I had a 2.4 as a GPA. And so I remember my counselor specifically telling me, like, don't even worry about going to college. They basically reinstated me just kind of on the favor of, it was like 3 months left to graduate. My counselor said, just go to a community college, you know, earn your way, work your way. And I was like, well, no, I don't really think that is what I want to do. I feel like I have what it takes to go to a 4-year college, even though the odds were stacked against me. And as a result, like, I prayed really crazy and I got into Howard, like, and honest to God truth, like, I never applied to get there.
You never applied to Howard?
So I never applied to Howard, like, and it was the weirdest thing because at that time, you know, only thing I knew was Morehouse, right?
Okay.
And I didn't, you know, I was afraid of rejection, so I never even applied to get there. And I was in church one day, my mom came with this letter saying Howard, and I was like, whoa, that's what's up. I don't even know where that school is.
Wow.
And
because you're from Chicago.
I'm from Chicago.
Right.
Like, born and raised.
Right.
Like, the best city in the world.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
But I'm there, and I get this letter from Howard, and then she's like, you know, you accepted. And it was the weirdest thing because I never applied. But then I called the school, like, hey, you know, like, I'm just excited to come. They was like, well, you can come, but you can't live anywhere because you're listed as unclassified. We don't know how your name got in the system. So I was like, well, I can't come there and be homeless. So, you know, something has to happen. I called back. The guy was like, just come in and apply yourself, and we got you. And from that experience on, like, it's almost like it was my calling.
Wow.
And that experience was very hard, particularly because of where I was coming from and what I was exposed to educationally.
Wow.
But through hard work and my mom being on me like white on rice and days, like, I wanted to quit every semester. Like, I never wanted to go back. I hated DC. I hated Mambo sauce. I hated go-go music. But when,
everything.
Everything about it was bad. You know what I'm saying? But I realized that it was through consistency that developed character in me. And it's through that where I was able to attain a dual major, BS in psychology, BA in criminal justice, and then I ended up going to get my master's of divinity, and that's a whole nother ballgame in itself. So Howard is like my home. It's where I found myself. It's where I learned the beauty of being Black and not being ashamed of that, and what it means to be intelligent and have dignity and to hold my head up even when I don't always feel at my best. So I can go on and on about that.
I mean, your story, wow. So I hear like Howard pretty much gave you a second chance in life. So how does his
not a second chance, a chance.
A chance.
Because where I was, there was no chances.
There was no
chances.
The
statistics of how I grew up was people they were born, they lived and they died. Like you were born, you got a child, you got married, you got a job, and that was your life.
Right.
Like, so that was, to dream was almost like a fallacy. Like it was almost like something that was unproductive or counterproductive. Like dreaming, nobody dreams, nobody cares about your dreams. Like do the usual, dress like everybody, walk like everybody, live like everybody. So coming to Howard really gave me an option when I didn't even realize I had one.
Wow. So tell me, about shifting your mindset. So day one of Howard,
Yeah.
you had a 12 on the, you said the ACT,
Yeah.
you were kicked out. You don't even know how you got here, but somehow, some way, you're here.
Yeah.
What was your mindset? Did you feel like you didn't deserve it? You were overwhelmed? Like, how did you rise above that moment?
I think a word that I can describe is inadequate. Like, I'm coming to Howard with like laureate scholars and people, vice president kids,
Yeah.
and people that have real Lacoste on. I was wearing a fake one, you know.
Come on.
You know, who's getting our clothes with my cousins in the red van, you know what I'm saying?
Hand me down,
And
yes.
Yeah, and but like, for me, it was so surreal because coming from, you know, the school, my mom sacrificed for me to go to private school.
Wow.
So even living in the inner city, we didn't go to inner city schools.
Wow.
So I knew about having diverse experiences of education. So I'd never been in a campus where it was all black people. And to see that though we all are the same color, we all come from different places. And so I remember my freshman year, I was like addicted to no-dos. Like,
Wow.
because like it was so much pressure on me, like, to succeed.
No
and to-
dose is.
like these sleeping pills, like the anti-sleeping pill,
it.
it keeps you up.
Okay.
No dose.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it was one of those things, like, I was scared to go to sleep because I was scared of failure. I couldn't comprehend, like, it makes me almost emotional. Like, I
Wow.
couldn't comprehend what I was reading. So I would have to read things like 4 or 5 times. Like, I remember being in class and I would try to be articulate to speak.
Wow.
But because of my vernacular coming from where I come from and being
Yeah.
at Howard, being bougie, like, I remember specifically, I'm not gonna call her name because I
Yeah.
still kind of was working on my forgiveness.
Yes.
But like, she turned around and said, "What he's trying to say, y'all, is."
Wow.
And those words are what motivated me
Wow.
to like dedicate my whole time at Howard in the library. Like, so the way I speak, the way I communicate was because I remember being humiliated in a class that really could have silenced me moving forward. But I was driven to say that my voice is not just meant to stay in my head.
Wow.
Like, I have earned the right to speak and to share my own story. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And you use your voice in a creative way. We're gonna get to your preaching in just a moment. But my mother, you know, she had me at 17 and talk about the strength of your mother and the witness of your father, and how that has shaped you. So for that person that didn't come from the perfect family background, you know, and still has a dream, what can you say to that riser that just like, you know, they did this, or I didn't have that and I didn't have the finances? How can you motivate them to continue to chase their dreams?
I can say that even a nightmare is a dream. The only thing you have to do is keep dreaming. Like,
good.
you know, we all have those periods in our lives where we believe that we're called, but sometimes we don't associate our calling with conflict. And I believe that that's what makes our story unique and what makes our purpose so clear cut, and that it can't be duplicated, because the dream that you have, you didn't give yourself. So the security that you should have as a dreamer is that the person or the being that's responsible for you dreaming what you dream is committed to getting that dream out. So I don't believe in chasing dreams. I believe in birthing them. Like,
Come on,
it's in
come
you.
on, say that
So
again.
I don't-
Repeat.
I don't believe in chasing dreams.
That's
I
good.
believe in birthing them. It is innate in you. You don't have to look for it anywhere else. You don't have to run or connect with anybody else to validate what you see.
Yeah.
All it is just being and becoming and just living throughout it. And I believe if you keep living, you will see it happen.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. We all have a purpose, and we all have something that we uniquely have been called to do. And so while on Howard's campus, when did you begin to wrestle with this call? Because you use your voice. You said using your voice, and you do it mightily as a preacher. I mean, y'all, he's everywhere, okay? Different countries, different cities, different states, using his voice for the advancement of the kingdom. When was this moment where you said, "Hey, I think I'm wrestling with this call in my life"? What was that moment?
So the most craziest thing is I've been preaching since I was 11.
11.
Yeah, like I had like my first church at my home. Like I didn't sleep in my room. Like my mom is the dopest because like it was like plastered glue on every wall with like cardboard, and my bed frame was my choir stand. and I slept in like the living room. Like I was my pastor, like I was doing that then.
Oh my goodness.
Like I had always this unique thing, like my church was my cousins, and we had all of these, like, we would record our services. My brother was a drummer, my sister was a singer, and it was like a big deal. I remember taking a red wagon and putting bricks in it, telling my mom I was gonna build a church in the backyard. So I think for me, the challenge was really accepting my call.
Accepting the call.
Like I kind of knew I was different, but most people who have a calling would rather prefer another person's calling.
Yeah.
Because we sometimes don't like to embrace the unknown. And I believe that whatever God calls us, because he's so infinite and so vast in who he is or his essence, he doesn't have the capacity to duplicate. So what do you do when you're called to something that no one else was called before you?
Yeah.
There's no model, there's no template there. So coming to Howard, it was very difficult to marry both who I wanted to be and who I was. So I struggled with my identity and connected with wrong circles of peers. And I did things because I didn't have the security internally to fully just embrace that the me that I'm called to be is enough.
Wow.
So like it's been that's why I said it was life-changing, because it's when I realized that I was attracting people in my pretending to be someone else that I didn't want to be. And the moment I started trying to be the me that God had called me to be, I'd already brought so many other people who wasn't called to who I was really.
Yes.
So now I have to do this whole like revamping of my circle and who I am. And I said, let me spare myself the drama that's connected with that. So around junior year, I started just being and allowing, as somebody would say, the shakeable to be shaken. And whatever was shakeable, I just let it shake. Whatever relationship was not secure, I just let it move. And I finally just woke up to the fact to say that, man, the part of me that I've subdued and I hate the most is the part of me that people love the most about me.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you decided to make this declaration to originate and not duplicate.
Yes, originate. I declare my independence.
Yeah.
Like from the slavery of person's opinions. Like I can't live that way.
The shackles of other people's opinions.
That's real talk.
Wow. So did this freedom allow you to go on to Howard Divinity School, or was that a wrestle in a pool?
That was a wrestle in the pool.
It's okay to just say, okay, God, use me, but then to take that next step.
Absolutely. Like I was a double major, the first person in my family to graduate. The only thing we think about in the inner city when you graduate from college is more money.
Yeah.
Like I have all of these student debt loans where I've used them all on True Religion jeans, and I've gone to Miami several times to turn up with the money that I now owe Sally Bay. Lord forgive me. But when I think about just the concept of like the journey of graduating, like I wanted to be a forensic psychologist for the FBI, and that was like my passion. And I remember going there and sitting in an interview with the FBI, graduating from college, and I thought to myself, this is not what I saw. Like, as much as this is an exciting opportunity, I feel like I'm settling. And I remember going home and telling my father, like, I want to go to divinity school. Like, and my family's full of preachers or whatever. My father said, I'm so embarrassed that you would share that with me. All of my friends have their sons are going to be lawyers and doctors, and I have to go to my friends and tell them that my son wants to be a preacher. And for 6 months, he never talked to me. So I actually had, at that time, left DC, and I was living in Chicago for 6 months, sleeping on a futon, working a temp job with no direction. And I decided to come back and make a decision and realizing that I don't need anyone's validation on what God has already validated.
That's good.
And I stepped out on faith. And I never regretted it. And God allowed my father to come back and apologize and told me, at least you have options. So it is through that where it is, my life has not been easy, but the one word I can use to define my journey is just faith.
Faith.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. And what people don't know about your story is the rejection. So you're very transparent, but I'm learning a lot about your history. So for that person that's starting their business or that person that's starting the ministry and people are saying you can't do it or why are you doing it or do it this way, how can you encourage them to do it the way that God gives it to them, even if they're the only person believing in the vision?
Yeah, I think that it's all about perspective.
Perspective.
Like I recently was thinking about the word nowhere. And I said, there's a different way that we can look at nowhere. And the word is now here. It has the same letters in it.
Oh my goodness.
Like it entails the same thing.
Yes.
But it's how you see it.
Yes.
So if God has downloaded into you, what I believe God, a vision, a dream, a business, whatever that is, I believe that he doesn't connect what he's placed within you with the need for other people to see what you see. Any additional vision to that vision is that vision. So I think you have to be secure and you have to protect that and recognize that some of our rejection that we experience is really our protection. Like had we been embraced by it too quickly, it probably would have contaminated. But for some reason or another, I believe that the reason why I'm rejected most of all is because I've been selected. Like I've been taken off the market. And I believe that God has some way hid me for some reason. So they're not really rejecting me personally. They're just operating based upon the limitation of what they can see. So like I have to process my perspective to be secure on what really matters so that I don't forfeit, because I don't want to live by the applause. Or like the saying said, I'll die by their criticisms. So I don't really want to live my life holding what God has given me at the expense of what you may think about it. Because history makers don't need individuals in the past to determine what's going to happen in the future. Like you just make history. So like I think what I'm trying to teach a generation, live out, is that you can save yourself the hard labor of stress and worry by just living. Trying to control things that are uncontrollable, trying to manipulate things, trying to be aggressive in your networking. And, you know, that is sometimes is counterproductive because I believe when it's really a God dream and it's a God vision, if you continue to live it out, God will, I believe this, when you discover you, then people will come looking for you.
Come on.
When you find it, you don't have to worry about it. I think that people will find you. So don't worry about over marketing. I think it's good to market. Don't worry about buying followers and trying to, you know, make yourself look great for social media, because when you really have that thing that God has placed in the earth as the missing element to their problem, then people are going to go high and low to find out what it is they need, because you are the answer to the problem.
Wow, this is great. So what I'm hearing is, when you know your why, you can live that thing out organically.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you talked about the followers. You have a great following. People are interactive. You know, you post something, you have the likes, you have the comments, you have the shares, but you do it uniquely. You do it the way that you do it, right? So walk me through the moment when you decided in ministry, I'm going to do it the way God gives it to me. In my dress, in my style, in my delivery. You know, I'm not going to try to duplicate anybody else. Like, was there tension in owning you? Is it still tension? Walk us through how.
So when I got the job at Calvary. Where I'm currently the youth and young adult pastor, I was not prepared for this mega church, but these ratchet kids, right? So I came in from a old school type of, you know, environment where at 25 you were supposed to be married and your wife was supposed to wear a hat and stockings, right? Like that's the way I grew up. Well, you would be a sinner. You would be a sinner without stockings where I come from, okay? But I realized like the kids were not budging like on what like I was giving. Like it's almost like if you want to hear us, you have to be you. Like if you want us to pay attention to you, like you got to find you quickly. So it was really them that kept me on my toes to say they're not going to budge because I'm trying to pretend to be somebody else. They're going to see right through you. Like, so you can act like you're so deep. Like so it was the desire to connect that allowed me to accept who I was. And I realized that when I connected to myself, I began to open up, because I realized that authenticity can be intimidating to those that live mediocre lives, and insecure lives. And so it's when I started like saying, yo, I don't think I have style. Like I'm not waking up in the morning getting outfits, right? Like, I just wake up and whatever I want to put on, I put on.
Wow.
And I realized, like, yo, it's dope because I said it's dope. So, like, even though my
Period.
like it's easy, like, because even on social media, like, my staff are like, they hate it. Like, I go on random sabbaticals. Like, I don't respond to people when they comment under my stuff. And it's not like I respond sometimes in DMs, but sometimes you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Because you know, whatever. But like, I don't post for you to like it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not living my life. Social media, maybe because I'm an older millennial, that I don't really trust it like that. So like, you can be a random person.
Yeah.
So I just don't live my life for the likes, and because it messes my equilibrium up.
That's good.
And then I don't want to minister out of the need to be liked, because I know that if I'm ever going to adequately be a God representative, one of the qualifiers is to be hated. And if I'm not threatening any system, if I'm not creating any chaos, if I'm not providing any uncomfortability, then I'm really not being fully present in who I am.
Wow. So let's talk about that, threatening the system and providing chaos.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I absolutely admired is you led this prayer at the National Monument, the National Mall, months. It was in September 2019, right? And it's something that I hadn't seen before. So a lot of people are talking about, the world and all our leaders, and it's talk. But you were a person that said, I want to galvanize people, my prayer warriors, and we're going to go and we're going to just cover the nation. So what was your thought process when you were declaring this prayer over the DMV area and the world?
I'm working on this book, and the framework and the premise is the day that hope died. And I remember 2016, I was in the laundromat, and it was the election.
Yeah.
And we all were like, just knew for a fact that, Hillary Clinton would be the first female president.
Yes.
And in the midst of like midnight, like all of our hope for many of us was shattered.
Absolutely.
And I had a decision at that moment to say, I can either go with the rest of society and be pessimistic and be hopeless, or I can provoke a hope. And what I believe hope is a construct that allows persons to really believe that we're not defined by where we are today, that there's always something beyond what we currently see. And so for me, that was prayer. It's not because I want to be here, and it's not because I like the person in the White House, but for the sake of my children and the sake of the children that are being impacted, I think the visible representation of unity can destroy the systematic framework of the enemy. And
That's
so
good.
that's where I'm at. Like, and I find it more palatable to both Republicans and Democrats, to any individual in life. One common construct that unifies us is prayer.
Yeah.
And so I felt like without any political motivation or denominational representation, if I can bring white, brown, Mexican, gay, lesbian, whatever that is to you, in a common core of interceding for the need of our nation, then I think that we are doing our job.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, but we have prayer calls and we have Bible study. We
Ain't
have
nobody
church
in
on
there but
Sunday.
church people, yo. Nobody cares. Like that. I'm over that.
But why outside the four walls? Why are you really leading this movement to take the church outside the four walls and to hit the streets? Why is it so important?
I think it's important because that's why we were chosen.
Yeah.
I think that like if it had remained in the four walls, then maybe my mother would have remained this random girl without coming into the church. If it would have remained in the four walls, I may not ever even existed, because I could have just been aborted because there was no moral construct to allow my mom a level of support to be able to have me at that young age. So for me, I think legacy. I think continuity. I think that there's a responsibility that I have to a dying and hopeless generation who lives their lives given based upon what the media feeds them. And I have to be able to combat what they're being fed with what I believe is the Word of God.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we talk about going outside the four walls, and we talk about even the world talks about millennials leaving the church. So I know that you're planning this program called Excel.
Yeah.
It's coming up. Why is it important for us to really reach this generation, and how do we do that effectively?
Like, it's so important to reach the generation, because if you don't reach the generation, then you don't have anything left.
Yeah.
You know, I think what we're seeing is, I believe, an awareness and awakening of what the church was intended to be. And I think I'm assigned to provoke the consciousness of those within the walls. And I call myself a bridge builder. So I don't really rely completely on either side. I'm that person that tries to identify, and I know the vocabulary of the boomer and what they need and what they want and look for, but I also know the need and the caliber of the generation who's not interested in religion. They're more so interested in not just relationship, but they want results. And I think it's very difficult to communicate to a generation who were handed down these recipes that never resolved into anything tangible. Like, you know, our mothers prayed long prayers and they ended up living a reckless, whack life. And so there's a generation that's demanding, how do I see significant change in my faith as a result of my faith? So we're calling this conference Excel because for me, Excel literally is to succeed in a lot of areas. And I think what's happening is that we have all of these young people at our church from the ages of 0 to 20 before they go to college, but nobody ever gave them any tools to find them. The only thing we were given was tools to be them, which is what we saw. And so I'm trying to reach back to give the generation not a complete, perfect carbon copy version of this is what you got to be you.
That's good.
But I'm trying to give you the tools so that you can find your own mirror to know who you already are. And unpack that with not just knowing you're called and knowing your purpose, but equipping you for the two. Because purpose is not the same as calling. And they marry the two so much, but it's not. Like, you can be given a purpose, but you still need to know the individual calling that's associated to that purpose. It's like having knives and forks and spoons, silverware in your drawer. Like, you have to know that each of them, although they all serve the same purpose, they all have a distinct function. And so many people are lost as to what their function is in the earth. And so what we do is we begin to either compete with others or try to assimilate to other persons doing things that we really weren't called to do in the first place. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And one thing that stands out as you talk about the tools is spiritual disciplines and developing a lifestyle. I did see that you're taking a hiatus on social media, and I think that's really good to reconnect. So what are some tangible tools that you can give to those who really want to just strengthen their spiritual walk?
A tangible tool I can use is, first of all, I think awareness and devotion. I think devotion is so critical because it really centers your day. I say do devotion and meditation. So I say awareness, devotion, and meditation, I think are 3 essentials. And I think that they're the easiest things to kind of start with. An awareness of the fact that you need help. Awareness of the fact that you're limited in what you can do and how you can actually become what you've never seen before. So that awareness is needed, which depends on God.
That's good.
I think devotion is what prioritizes God in your day. To allow him to be the central focus, to center yourself in a position to say, okay, this is where I am, and I'm wanting to receive what you want me to do today. So that I can enter work, I can enter school in an angle that's already centered. And not let it be given to me, and then I will say devotion and meditation. And allowing myself to center myself. And so many people, because of so many distractions, remains off-centered. And when you're off-centered, you cannot fully not only perform, but you can't produce. So I think that those 3 things would be my tools, just without going so heavily theologically, without giving you a church language, just focusing on this reality that I need God, but God also needs me to make sure that this marriage can make him glorified and known in the earth. So that's how
really good. That's really good. And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of this analogy, right? So when our phones die, we connect to our chargers, and it's the same with our spirits. We have to connect to the source through prayer, through devotion, through meditation. So it is important to rise. If you're out here trying to live your best life and get the bag and grow your ministry and your movement, you have to slow down and you have to make sure that you are centering yourself so that you can be more impactful in the world. So you brought your ministry outside of your church. You brought it to the National Mall. You've even brought it above and beyond by going to various countries. You've gone to Canada. You've been to Liberia. You just mentioned wanting to go to South Africa. I've been there as well. Tell me about the importance of connecting with others with a vision.
Man, like when you prioritize others above yourself is when you can fully see the true meaning of life. Like when you really can look at the need in the earth and look at your own limitation as an individual and see how God can still use you to meet that need. It brings a level of significance that words can't adequately describe. And so 2016, I was randomly at this African wedding, which one of my friends had got married, and her husband is a pastor, and I don't know, he said God told him to call me, but he called me and asked me to go to Ghana. Like at that time, I had never been to Africa, always desired to go. But when I went to Ghana, like my life changed. Like I got so emotional. I felt like I had been welcomed home. I felt that it was just a life-changing experience for me. But beyond that, I saw the need of a generation. And I saw, one, the influence that Western culture had on them. And I also saw that there's something universal to all persons in this millennial group. That though we may be on one continent, there's still the same needs all around. And so I started praying for revival globally. And one of the things that delivered me from the social stress of where I was in my church was not what God is calling me to do in my church, but what God is calling me to do in my city, and what God is calling me to do in my country, and then what God is calling me to do in the continent, and what God is calling me to do all around. And so now my vision has expanded because of my appetite and my exposure. So when your exposure is expanded, your vision is expanded. And so many people have a limited vision based upon their limited exposure. So I feel like in my life, when I began to travel to Africa, and last year we had an opportunity to take 400 young people and do a leadership symposium in Liberia. And like, if you know about Liberian history, it's like a real mess. But to see the hunger and the appetite and the need of those young men who looks at this high school struggling failure, or who looks at this person with issues and brokenness and conflictions and insecurities, and see like, yo, somebody is waiting on what I bring, then I don't have the time to compare myself to other people. And I don't have the energy to give to anything that's not suited to the vision that God showed me, because I realize at this point now my life is no longer about me. So that exposure to Africa, that exposure to various countries has given me now a desire not to just go to one country, but like, who else can know this message? Like, who else can hear?
Everywhere.
And everywhere.
Everybody.
and guess what? And so now I really can be unapologetic being me. Because I realize like, while I'm trying to be somebody else, I'm setting a pattern for a generation who's yet to be heard. So I feel like God is bringing me up to be a voice of the unheard.
You are a voice, and we hear you loud and clearly. So for that person that wants to get involved in future endeavors, you know, is there an upcoming journey? I think that I saw something in the fall.
Yeah, we was doing this in the fall, but you know, a lot happening.
There's a lot happening in the world.
In the world, but we definitely keep persons updated.
That's good.
Looking to expose other people to the same exposure. One more thing I'll say is the difference in, like, look at scripture between Peter and Paul is exposure. They're equally anointed by the same person,
Wow.
But one has an appetite different than the other because of what one was exposed to.
That's good.
So my advice to individuals who may have a calling or who may feel that maybe they feel trapped,
Yeah.
or they may feel suffocated and they're looking for a new start. Don't go starting a business because you're bored.
Yeah.
Like, don't go wasting money and energy because
Yeah.
you want some affirmation. No, just start getting exposed. Just start connecting to others that's not like you. Just start visiting other places. Go to museums and shift your appetite for what you are interested in. And naturally, without your assistance, God will gradually stretch
good.
and expand what you desire and what you crave, and fill that with what is needed, which is his vision and his plan.
That's beautiful. As you're talking about exposure, I see like this intergenerational exposure.
Absolutely.
So for that young person that's 12, or
Yeah.
you know, that high school dropout, or that person that's in college, or that person that's 60 years old and
Yeah.
still trying to figure out the next thing, expose yourself. Go to the conferences.
Yeah.
You know, talk to the people. Just show up.
Show up.
Just simply
And be
show
present.
up. Be present.
Put your phone down and be present. Like, it's hard, but put it down and be in the moment. Like, embrace your now.
That's good.
Like, so much is neglected while you're looking for next. And if you don't, like, you will forsake everything. Like, last example, I'm a preacher. Right?
Come
So,
on.
no, like, I don't know how to swim, right? So, like, I've been taking swimming classes. Don't judge me, okay?
I need to
So,
take
like, it's okay, yeah. So,
Teach
like,
me.
yeah, like, so I go there, right? And so, naturally, when I'm thinking about swimming, I'm naturally trying to get in the water and head to the next destination. And then my coach tells me, slow down. Swimmers don't look forward. While you're trying to look forward,
that's
your
good.
legs are going down and you can't float and gravitate with the buoyancy of the water.
Wow.
But it's when you look down
Wow.
where your legs naturally gravitate because of the mass that you have as a body in the water. So I realize now, stop being aggressively searching for your destiny.
Wow.
And actually embrace where you are today. And so when you meet people, don't connect with them on where you're trying to go directly.
That's good.
But be in the moment.
That's good.
See what they're saying. Pay attention. Look at their eyes. Understand that they have a journey that you can kind of figure out how to find your own, and then enjoy the fruit of what's happening today.
Yeah.
And before you know it,
Yeah.
you'll be in tomorrow.
Jeez.
So, like, just chill out.
That's good.
You know,
Just
yeah.
breathe.
Breathe.
Just
Yeah,
breathe.
Yeah.
Wow, well, Pastor Will, your story is amazing. From your college journey, high school, your parents, and to know where you are today, embracing your creativity, embracing your call, embracing your originality. So I really think that you're going to help my risers just own who they are, unapologetically. Unapologetically. So I like to end with a rise moment. So the question that I want to ask you is, how do you motivate other people? They want to throw in the towel. They want to give up. How do you motivate them to just rise? What is one thing that you can leave them with?
I think one thing I can leave them with is hope.
Hope.
And I think that the bigger question is, if not you, then who?
Then who?
If you don't do what God has showed you, who else will? If you don't become the person that God has called you to become, then who else will? There's a generation connected to you.
Yeah.
There's a cure connected to you. There's a book connected to you. The world history is connected to you.
That's good.
So who are you not to allow history to speak your name because of how you feel currently today? So don't make temporary, emotions make you make permanent decisions.
That's good.
So while you're being you, recognize that there's a cost to being you. And don't be so cheap.
Yeah.
You can afford it.
Come on. Risers, well, I hope that you have been blessed. And as Pastor Will said, remember that there is hope, starting with the decision to show up and own all of who you are. How can we follow you? You're so dynamic. How can we stay connected?
Like, people tell me I'm too much sometimes.
No,
but
I love
it's
it.
all good. No, you can follow me on Pastor Will G. at Instagram when I get back after Lent.
When
so
he
catch
get
me
back.
on Easter.
Okay.
Catch me on Easter. I have a good suit on.
Praise the Lord.
And then you could catch me on
Switch it up,
yeah,
y'all.
switch it up. Yeah, I'm saying Pastor Will G on Twitter.
That's good.
And then Will Granberry for My Senior Citizens on Facebook.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, girl. I appreciate you. I'm so proud of you. You're killing the game. You're like Oprah.
Whatever.
Not Gil, but Oprah. Yeah.
Thank you. We love you, Rogers. Bye-bye.